engage, disrupt, adapt, repeat. You're listening to Pure Reinvention, the podcast for curious people.
Welcome to this episode of Pure Reinvention, where we create space for the unexpected by inspiring a reinvention lifestyle. We're here with Mindy Bradish-Orta. Mindy, it's December, and leaders are going to start looking at 2017 and the kinds of leadership that they want to bring to their organizations. And we've been talking about some things that might be of interest to them.
I was just mentioning that I have a hard time with this and this time of year and really thinking about what to do different next year, how to reinvent myself, the organizations. And my personality type, Myers-Briggs, color, disc, whatever you want to look at, I like status quo. My instinct is calm, normal, go do and have your list and get it done, and nothing's too crazy and it's pretty calm. But I know inherently that that is not going to move me or the organization or the community forward. So constantly pushing myself outside of my comfort zone and taking this time of year to really think about that and to find time for myself to recharge, to reflect, to be comfortable in the norm so that I can really hit the ground running in January with whatever new disruptive idea I might come up with.
So, Mindy, I don't think you're alone. I think that many leaders would agree with you that there's a certain amount of energy that goes into leading in a space that isn't really clearly defined. I find myself needing to have my own space to balance and to stay recharged and to have those things that I do that are more routine. Because I think even those of us that are leading in a more disruptive or changing environment, we need that balance. And we've talked about this many times, the balance being so important for all leaders.
This week's episode is sponsored by MB Strategies. MB Strategies focuses on your success and provides you with sustainable results by identifying opportunities, guiding you through implementation, and navigating you to greater results. Contact MB Strategies today at mbstrategiesllc.com to start your reinvention journey.
So, Mindy, how do we begin to give leaders the advice on how to find the right balance as they're leading in these changing and disruptive new environments?
Well, one of the podcasts that you had, I think last month or so, was Anita Quillen with Diversified Engineering Products, and she mentioned that there is no perfect day, that it is always a balancing game. And if you set your expectation that I'm going to balance priorities today for my family, or I'm going to balance priorities today for work or for my volunteer activities or whatever it may be, I understand and accept that I will not be what I perceive as perfection in the other areas. Now, that's not to say that you're giving yourself permission to be bad all the time or ignore those commitments, but that it's okay once in a while to say, I'm going to miss that important meeting at work, or I'm going to miss the track meet tonight, but I'll make the big one this weekend, to make choices and let yourself have the freedom to be okay with that. Because if we live in guilt and we live in a world where we're always trying to be perfectionists, we will never succeed, because that will just weigh us down and we'll never find the energy to step out into that uncomfortable space of the unknown.
So let's think about one of the messages we want to send to those leaders who are listening to this podcast, that in 2017, let's make up our minds to focus perhaps more on balance rather than perfection. That the pressure we put on ourselves to be perfect, to ourselves, to our staffs, to our families, to the world, who expects a lot from us, there's maybe a little bit more realistic balance that we need to find, which is find yourself in a spot where you can focus on the balance in different areas rather than the perfection. There's always a lot of space going forward to keep working. But if we don't recharge, if we don't get to the kids' activities, those are the things we're going to wish we had attended. At the same time, Mindy, as you were mentioning, there are times when I have to balance the work and the family, and those are important as well. I think when we push ourselves to perfection, we end up being in a spot that's not healthy. So, Mindy, take a minute and talk to us about how you and some of the leaders that you work with have been able to find balance. I remember we, not too long ago, did a podcast with a good leader in your area, Jackson, who was using yoga as a means to find balance.
Yeah, and that's a great segue. Thank you, because I've been wanting to get back to the gym. And that takes a good 2 hours out of my day, usually 5 days a week. And with everything I have going on with multiple organizations that I'm leading and trying to reinvent a whole community in Jackson, I think I really need that physical outlet as well as to take care of myself. But I don't have 2 hours a day right now. So instead of feeling guilty about it or dragging myself out of bed and sacrificing sleep, which is one of those things that I need to get through the day, I've decided, okay, I'm not going to take 2 hours a day to go to the gym, but I'm going to make sure that I'm eating healthy, which means I'm packing a lunch instead of running through a quick drive-through for the 15 minutes I have to eat. And I make sure that I take time to get the sleep I need. So I don't have 2 hours for the gym, but I can find other areas of my life where I can be healthy and take care of myself. And that is one thing I'm doing, just like someone mentioned yoga before. Yoga is often a place where we can find time and energy to rebuild ourselves and stretch ourselves, literally, right? Literally stretching our muscles to grow and push beyond our boundaries and stretching our minds in a safe place. And I think leaders need to also find safe places where they can either talk with other peers, other leaders, or a safe place where they can vent, not fuel or fan the fire, but vent so that we can let go of that guilt and we can let go of that pressure to be perfect, because we will never ship a product. We will never do something if we're constantly trying to get perfection before we'll actually do it.
What you're really describing for me is the realistic expectations that we need to have for ourselves, that if it's impossible for you to get to the gym for 2 hours every day, that would be your perfect world. The realistic expectation that you have created for yourself is in your nutrition or for those areas which you can do, which are significant departures from what perhaps old habits could exist on your journey towards getting to a point where perhaps at some point professionally, in the balance between the professional and personal life, there may be a couple of hours a few times a week for you to really do a deep dive on the workout side. But I find that those realistic expectations that a leader has to have are very, very important first for themselves. Because if they will impart those realistic expectations within their own world that they can own, I think they'll tend to then have those realistic expectations seep into their organizational expectations as well. Would you agree?
Absolutely, I would agree. And their employees, then their volunteers, whoever they're working for, their family will feel that. And when you think about leaders that you maybe admire, often for me, it's those that are happy and at peace. And I know that just comes from a place of realistic expectations on themselves. And it does trickle out to everyone. And then it perpetuates itself. If we're living in a world of guilt and unfulfilled expectations, whether they're our own expectations or others, it's heavy. It's a weight you carry around. And to find happiness and peace in that world is difficult. To find innovation, disruption, the new reinvention is difficult in that world. Whereas if you just put yourself by choice in a place where I'm okay that I am not perfect, and I'm okay that I'm not getting to the gym today, but I know I will in a month, here are the little pieces I can do today and now, and be okay with that, then you can find a peace and a happiness that also transcends everything out and gets out through all of the channels to the people you surround yourself with.
That leadership maturity that you're describing, I think historically would have been where we get as we get older and we have more experience. But as we've learned, Mindy, maturity is really not about age. It's about how you look at things. And so what we're encouraging leaders to think about is how they use this in a way, no matter your age as a leader, to bring that leadership maturity within yourself and recognize how powerful that is as a message that it sends to others that are within your span of who are watching you work.
So it's not only for our own health and happiness, but for the health and happiness of the people that are coming up behind us and around us, the people even we report to. And this is just the perfect time of year to take some time, set aside a couple hours a day maybe, and just be with yourself. process, feel, recoup, and know that when we make these tough choices and push ourselves outside of our boundaries come next month, we will do it in a safe, warm, comfortable place with ourselves, and that will help everyone around us be the leaders that they can be.
So we're going to place ourselves in that place first, because that if we're living that, that will be very evident to those that are watching us, which is, by the way, everyone, right? And we are going to employ what we call kind of this oscillating lifestyle, where we are going to recognize that there are times of high energy where we're going to be very active, and we are going to be burning more energy and more calories than what we're taking in. We're going to be in what we call a negative burn, because the energy it takes to introduce this new initiative, disrupt this old process into something new, whatever this new energy is going to be, which is going to be considerable for us, we're also going to balance that with the rest or the rejuvenation or whatever we need to keep us in that more mature leadership place, where when people look at us, they see a happy, confident leader, not a leader with their hair standing up. And there is a difference, isn't there, Mindy?
There sure is.
And you can see it in the person's face. You can see it in their posture. You can see it in the way they hold themselves. You can see it in the way they communicate to others. And what we're encouraging is, with all of that messaging that's important for the leader to do, they take into account how important they are at being that mature leader and having the right balance. So if you're ready for a change, make it a change that lasts. Make it pure reinvention.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Pure Reinvention. Keep the conversation going and get alerts when new podcasts are up by following us on Twitter at Pure Reinvention, or sign up for our mailing list at purereinvention.com.